She loves the matching game with the cards. She will kick your butt in the matching game. Anger at, God, at myself. I doubted him. I didn't believe that he was good. What's going to happen to her when I die? Who's going to take care of her? I just had this fear that Blakely was never going to be able to know Jesus. It's like God just made it very clear to me that she was going to have a seat at his table. I'd love to have a podcast for fatherless children who are autistic with a solo parent. So somebody come up with that.
Yeah. It might be you.
I was going to say, I think that's what you're doing right now. Well, welcome back to another episode of the Broom Tree Podcast. My name is Eric. I'm here with my lovely wife, Amanda, as always. And we have, I think it's our first ever return guest.
Yeah.
She has been, and I'll say her name in a minute, but I can tell you statistically, she has been the largest impact audience-wise our podcast has ever seen. And we've been doing this for over a year now.
Yeah.
And we put up, I think it's 2 episodes. By the time this one airs, it'll be 2 or 3. I think it's 2, though. Well, you're part of Mother's Day as well, so I guess 3.
Yeah.
3 episodes that she's been on now, and across those 3 episodes, it's just under or right at 1,000 women have either followed, subscribed, emailed, DM'd, commented. It's been unreal. I mean, when we put up the first episode that you were in, we weren't even at 2,000 followers, and I checked yesterday morning. I think we were at 2,600 just on TikTok. I know our YouTube subscribers have doubled in size since your last episode, and we've had countless more women than I can count have emailed, DM'd, or commented and said like, "Wow, like I'm there right now," or "I was there," or "Glad you identified some red flags I see in my man now or my family now," and those kinds of things. And then also a lot of women have said like this gives me hope that like I did get out of this situation. For those of you who don't know, it's Annie Fry.
Hi.
But our last episode you did was on domestic violence and how to get out of that environment. And a lot of women have reached out and said like, I got out, but I didn't know what to do next. Yeah. And that was probably, I think, our largest response was I got out and now I don't know what to do. I'm in the hotel. I'm at my parents' house. I'm at wherever. And I just don't know where to go from here. And a lot of women have reached out. And then so I think it's been great, but we recorded the last time and we recorded a lot. We were recording till it was almost midnight that night. We were recording. It was late. And, the last segment we talked on, we went back and re-listened to it as we were getting ready to post that episode. And we just said, I think this is good, but it could be really good if we spent a little bit more intentional energy on it and maybe not at 11 o'clock at night into like hour 4 of our recording. And so we decided to re-record this episode. And I kind of want to kick it back to you before we dive into the topics for maybe people who didn't watch the last few episodes that you were in. You shared a little bit of your testimony, but if you kind of want to give like a 2-minute recap.
Hey, y'all. I'm Annie Fry, and I am, as of this year, a certified personal trainer. Woohoo.
All right.
Woohoo. I'm excited about that. I am a solo mom to a special needs child. How I got there, actually moved to Tennessee related to powerlifting for a boy. Prior to that, I'd lived in North Carolina all my life, moved here, met this guy, did not turn out to be what I thought it was going to be. Our marriage turned into that domestic violence situation that we talked about before. We split up. He ended up passing away due to a motorcycle accident. My daughter was just about to turn 2 at the time when he passed away. So that left me solo momming. Yeah. And over the course of the last couple of years since then, I have walked through finding out that my daughter has a disability, intellectual disability with, an autism diagnosis. Okay. So
yeah,
that's where we are.
Well, and I always like for you to share that piece because I think a lot of people hear, and I like that you corrected us back in Mother's Day on it's solo momming and not single momming. Yeah. And I think a lot of, especially in church, there's kind of still a stigma around that. And I always like hearing your story because people can sometimes see a solo mom out in public and be quick to judge on
Yeah.
how she got herself in that situation. And in your situation, you didn't just like decide one day like I'm gonna do this on my own now
Yeah.
or whatever. You kind of had a rough hand dealt to you, and then really any possibility of reconciliation was stripped away
Right.
after the motorcycle accident. And so it's even if you and him could have worked out your differences, now it's like there's no opportunity for
Right.
that. And so I think there's a lot of women out there who find themselves, or men who are just solo parenting, and we're so quick to be like almost like give it this ick of like, how did you get where you got?
Right.
Instead of taking the time to maybe see like a widow's just as much of a solo mom
Right.
as the deadbeat. Like
Yeah.
they're at the end of the day, they're both still doing it by themselves. And so not necessarily a solo mom by choice 100%.
Right.
I know this situation. If you haven't, go listen to those episodes. They're great. But diving into that, so you said your daughter, and for those who maybe didn't catch, your daughter's name is?
Her name is Blakely.
Blakely. She has an autism diagnosis.
She does.
She's they're upstairs right now. Blakely and our daughter Joe are upstairs, probably tormenting Julia, or having a great time watching Miss Rachel. But she is, how old is she now?
She is 5. She'll be 6 in July.
Okay.
Yeah.
So coming up on 6, and you said that Blakely's dad passed right before 2.
Yep.
We touched on a lot of that in the last episode, but maybe just a brief kind of recap. When Blakely asks or talks about her dad, what is that conversation? How do you navigate that as a mom whose baby's father is in heaven?
Yeah.
How do you navigate that?
Yeah. It's a normal thing now. We just say daddy's in heaven. She's starting to learn, who goes with who. So she knows Eric is JoJo's daddy, and she knows Amanda is JoJo's mommy. Like, she puts people together. And she's not really asking where daddy is yet, but I feel like it's coming soon. And she'll say, if we have pictures, we look at pictures of him. And if anything comes up about daddy, I'll talk about him openly. Like, on his birthday, we go eat pizza, and we say, daddy loved pizza. We're going to go eat pizza on his birthday. And she'll say, daddy's in heaven.
Yeah.
And she'll, she repeats that. How much she really understands, I'm not really sure.
Yeah.
But we don't shy away from talking about him in any way. So it's just an open dialogue. So
Yeah.
I know the questions are probably coming.
Yeah.
Well, and I
at
would
some point.
imagine it probably makes it easier. Not that it's easy, but it softens the blow a little bit of like, it's not just going to catch her off guard one day. Like,
Yeah.
you've always been saying that to her for as long as I've known you.
Yeah.
To where as she gets older and starts to understand those concepts of
Yeah.
like eternity and
Yeah.
life and death and all of that, it's not going to be this new thing
Yeah.
that like comes out of left field of like, oh wait, it's not like you've been saying, dad's just not here.
Yeah.
He's wherever. And then one day you're like, oh, well, he's not actually here.
Yeah.
So I think
then we
it's been
also,
helping.
when we talk about Jesus, and we talk about Jesus being in heaven, and then, oh, well, daddy's in heaven. So Jesus, it's a way for us to correlate
Yeah.
our faith with,
Yeah.
something that she already knows or already talks about. So
Yeah.
Yeah.
I like that.
So how old, we'll dive into the topic then.
Okay.
You said that she was diagnosed with autism. Kind of walk us through like when did the diagnosis happen? Maybe when did you start to, like, did you have any ideas potentially before she was formally diagnosed? Like, how did that kind of all unfold?
Sure. So Blakely was 8 months old when she started missing milestones. So honestly, at this point, I can't remember exactly all the milestones, but in the first
There's
year,
like so many.
you have so many.
Yeah.
And you go to the doctor, it feels like 3 million times in the first year. You have a 3-day appointment, you have a 2-week, and then and then you start getting into months. It's
And
like
you have to-
every 2 months or every month you go to the doctor. And
You
every
have
time
to fill that freaking
Yes.
4-page form out every time.
every single time. So it was at the 8-month mark when she was missing a lot of the milestones. Like, she wasn't able to sit up on her own. She wasn't holding like a sippy cup. Mostly like motor skills. She was having some difficulty with that. If you do the math, so Blakely was born in July of 2019. If you do 8 months ahead, that's March of 2020. So she missed milestones at the same time the tornado and COVID hit. So it was like at that point, her pediatrician we were going to he had sent her to a neurologist. And we ended up having to do a neurology appointment via Zoom. So imagine holding an 8-month-old in front of a computer with a brain doctor on the other side of the
That's
screen.
wild.
It's like pointless.
Yeah.
It was.
Yeah.
He's like, okay, I don't see anything wrong with your kid.
Yeah.
Call me if
Yeah.
you need me. And I did at that point. I had no idea what to think about was the thing. It's like, oh, he didn't see anything. We're good. Like, check that off the list. And then, as you know, like we talked about before, one is when Chris and I separated. There were some things that happened in the year between when she turned 1 and 2. It was just a lot of chaos with, and we can dive into that if we want to. Like she was still nursing. She would go to daycare and I would send bottles that I'd pumped and they would, we can cut this out if we need to, but he would, he thought if she didn't drink breast milk anymore, that she wouldn't need me as much. And so he told the daycare to stop giving her the bottles. And so she was getting dehydrated. She couldn't hold a sippy cup. And so I would get home, I would get her from daycare after being at work all day, and she would nurse for like an hour and a half because she was so thirsty. Her little fontanelle on the top of her head was starting to sink in. She had dark circles under her eyes. She couldn't poop. She was getting dehydrated. In that year, I know that she was missing milestones related to, her diagnosis now, but that wasn't my focus. I just wanted to keep her safe. And I ended up having to I had to get a doctor's note from her pediatrician, and I got her out of that daycare as quick as I could.
Yeah.
But you know how it is getting on a daycare list. It's not a quick thing. Yeah. And I'm going through this divorce. I can't quit my job and stay home with my kid. And so I promise I'm coming back around to my point. So ended up going to the pediatrician. I made the pediatrician wrote a doctor's note for her to be able to have bottles at certain times. And until I got her out of that daycare, like I was basically like standing over them without standing over them. Yeah. Anyway, so after Chris died, so which was right before she turned 2, we went, that was kind of another chaotic period. And then about all along that period of time, I was noticing things, but she had gotten into some therapies along the way, like she did physical therapy. She actually took her first step. She didn't walk until she was 20 months old. So in that year of separation between 1 and 2 is when she actually took her first steps. And she took her first steps at physical therapy. She walked on her knees for several months. She either crawled or walked on her knees. And I look back now and think I probably should have, advocated more for her and done more to get her help sooner or figure out what was going on sooner. But I'm not going to beat myself up about it. I'm going to give myself
always
some grace.
2020. Yeah.
No, for sure. Yeah.
Yeah.
And we were, and I said at the 8-month mark, by the time we actually, not even knowing what the diagnosis was, at that point we got referred to TEIS, which is early intervention. Mm-hmm. So from 8 months, she was almost 2 before she actually saw an early intervention specialist in person. Mm-hmm. Everything was via Zoom and everything. Yeah. So anyway, it wasn't all my fault. I can't take all the blame for it, but it was just the way the system was at the time.
Yeah. Which I think we had talked about this a little bit in the last episode. But like, especially when it comes to what's normal and not normal for kids, I feel like when we had Joe, I would Google everything. Yeah. And everything always said, this is completely normal, but also it might kill them. Yeah. And you're like, that's one extreme. That was for everything. And I would imagine that's kind of the advice you're getting too, is like, oh, this could be completely normal, or completely not normal.
Yeah.
And you're like, what do you do with that information? And, you know, like, it's very confusing.
She never stopped progressing.
Yeah.
And that was the thing that I kept kind of clinging to, is that she never got to a point and just stopped.
Yeah.
Like she was always, it was slow,
Yeah.
but she never stopped progressing. So I think that was my thing that I clung to. So,
so things are developing, and then, but like you're saying, there she's hitting her milestones, some of them, but not all of them, and the one she's hitting, it's maybe delayed or whatever. So then COVID starts to die down.
Yeah.
And you're able, I guess at some point, you're able to go see a neurologist or a specialist in person. You start going to physical therapy, all of these things. When did they finally say, like, something is unique here?
Well, there's a lot of months in between there.
Yeah.
Okay.
So before she was 2, she failed an MChat test, which y'all might be familiar. You might not even remember what that was, but it was a questionnaire that you have to take around the 15, 18-month mark. And it basically is an early indicator of autism. I didn't even know I just knew it said MChat. I didn't even know the A in MChat stood for autism, but apparently it does. And she, failed that, like, and they bring you back for a follow-up. And the doctor explained to me what it was, and we did the follow-up, and we passed it. It was like, oh, but it's all question, like there was no evaluation of her. It's me answering questions. And I'm like, I could say whatever I want to on here. And I don't know what I said, but it was like, oh, she's good. You'll come back at your next appointment. Yeah. And that's what kind of put the bug in my ear. Like, she didn't walk till she's 20 months. She's not talking. She's still unable to really hold a cup and like drink out of it herself. You know, there's all these little things that are not like I'm seeing other kids. And I've never had a kid before. I didn't know what was normal, what was not normal. And then being around other children, I would notice, well, this isn't what they're doing. So by the time that was, and then at the 2-year mark, I mentioned it to the pediatrician again. He was like, oh, Blakely's good. She's just taking her own time. By the time we got to 3, with 3-year checkup, I went in guns a-blazing. Like, I had been doing research. I had been figuring out. I had been meeting other people. Other people had started coming into my life. One of my really good friends, I met her in that year. She's an occupational therapist and is very familiar with kids on the spectrum. And just talking to her. Anyway, I went into that 3-year appointment, guns a-blazing. Basically, you're sending me for a referral or I'm going to another pediatrician. But in that year, too, between 2 and 3, her new daycare that I'd sent her to after I got her out of the hell one, they had been making, saying, hey, you need to get this checked out. There's something going on. We did, whatever. And I'd called the pediatrician and they reassured me, everything's okay. Just, we'll see at your 3-year or whatever. So that's when I had already been reaching out to them like, I want to go for an evaluation. I can't just call up a neurologist and say, I want to come for a evaluation. You have to be referred. So that's why I went into the 3-year appointment, guns a-blazing. I keep saying that, but I went in ready to fight, ready to advocate. And I talked to the nurse first, and I just love her. She's been Blakely's nurse since she was a little tiny baby, and we love her so much. She always has a cheese stick for Blakely when we come in. But Miss Susie at Dr. Kirshner's office, I walked, and when I talked to her first, she looked at me and she knew I was serious. And when Dr. K came in, he was like, that was the first thing he said was, I'll send you for an evaluation. And so I was like, okay, because I'd been praying. I was like, I'll fight if I have to. I'm gonna come out of this appointment with a referral. And it's like I just did a sigh of relief. I'm not going to have to show my ass here. I was the first cusser this time. So anyway, that was like the first step, and that was at 3. Mm-hmm. We started the process to be referred, and Blakely was officially diagnosed with autism after she turned 5. Okay. So it took from being 3... Mm-hmm. Right at 3 years old to after 5 before officially getting a diagnosis.
Yeah.
Waiting lists. One doctor only I walked into the appointment and it was the biggest waste of my time I've ever been to. Like all these forms and paperwork you have to fill out and then waiting on this waiting list. I walk in and the doctor says, I want you to sit right here. And if she makes eye contact with you, then we'll know where she stands on the spectrum. And I'm like,
What?
What?
I'm paying you how much money to tell me this?
Yeah.
And it was like, and then she was like, oh, she's just got a developmental delay. Go about your way. And it's like she based her like decision on one thing, whether she made eye contact or not, which is just not how it is.
Yeah.
And so anyway, and I'm not saying, by the time we actually got the diagnosis, I was prepared for it.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, and that's what I was going to ask.
Yeah.
Secondly, was like
In
you
those
kind
years.
of know or start to get a feeling in your head of like I may not be a doctor, but I'm not stupid either.
Yeah.
No one's with her more than you are. As you're kind of processing that before you get like the official, this is what it is. How is that processing looking for you? We wrote these down. The
Yeah.
first one I wanted to ask about was emotionally.
Yeah.
As you're like, did it like slowly sink in, or did you just have a day where it like all kind of hit you? Because like I think this is such a sensitive topic for people to talk about because it's not Blakely's no less than any other child, but you do. I think Whitney did a really good job of explaining this the other night, talking about her son, that you have an idea of what you want their life to look like, and you're still happy that they're here. But like we did the same thing when I thought we were going to have a daughter and we found out you were having a boy.
Yeah.
I was sad for like a week before I could celebrate what I was having. And so I think the same could be true of these diagnoses is like you just have to go through the process because you had an idea of what you wanted her future to look like. And now a doctor's telling you it's going to look different.
Right.
Yeah.
How did that unfold for you? Was it quick or did it kind of like slowly?
No, it was very slow. It was extremely slow. It was a lot of different stage. I mean, it was a grief stage. I think it was denial. You know, no, not my baby. My baby's not the A word.
Yeah.
You know, I'm not. That's not us. And then anger at God, at myself, at and then kind of some numbness, just like whatever, like. Disbelief, I guess, and sadness, obviously, and then just full on grief of just being overcome with just sadness of, I think the grief part that that was so sad for me is just being so upset that Blakely's not getting, I feel like she missed out on, the family side of things, like losing her daddy and then, not having, family nearby that really love her unconditionally. And then now she has this other thing against her, that's what it felt like. It felt like she has another thing on her. And I think that's what I had to grieve is what her life was the challenges that she was going to face. So, it's just a whole grief process. I was mad at myself. What did I do? I was 40 years old. I shouldn't have had a baby at 40 years old. All these terrible life decisions I made before I had a baby. What did I do? Like, did I, and then I blamed Chris. There were times where I just was mad at him. It's his genes. Yeah. He gave her these genes or whatever. And, which actually, we have had genetic counseling done or genetic testing, and the gene. There is a known gene. I'm going to say all the wrong things. And
no, you're good. We're not doctors.
Yeah.
Yeah. But what I've learned through that, we're actually going to see a geneticist this August. Is when the particular gene that makes I wish I'd written this down. The part of your brain that's responsible for development. Somebody probably knows the name of this, and when we stop recording, I'll remember it. There's a gene that affects how that works, and it is a known gene to cause disabilities, and Blakely has that gene. Missense, and a missense is like when a gene mutates, and that gene the way that it's like a 99%, whatever the percentage is, that it mutated in her specifically. So it didn't come from me. It didn't come from Chris. So that was kind of a reassuring thing, which it seems silly, but I'm glad that.
Yeah.
So at first I was happy that was a thing. And then I started like going into overdrive mode of, well, why did that gene mutate? What did I do to make it mutate? If she didn't get the gene from me, then what did I do while I was pregnant to make that gene mutate the way that it did? And all these spirals out of control. But
I feel like there's like a lot of like a validation and I don't know, peace in just getting answers.
Yeah.
In this process of like, you don't want or particularly it's hard to understand or accept the autism diagnosis, but at the same time now you have answers of where stuff, how to handle this, where to go from here. So it's kind of like you said, you're going through the emotions of it. I'm happy I have answers, but now what's the next steps with this?
Yeah.
I'm happy that I didn't give it to her or he didn't give it to her, but also
now,
what else could it be? And we had just talked about how like, with one of my last appointments that I went to, they were like, hey, he's looking a little small. We're just going to have to like monitor that. Apparently I have really small babies. And I was like, I literally started crying in the doctor's office. And I was like, is it because I couldn't eat for like the first couple months? And they're like, no, you didn't do anything. But immediately as women.
What did I do wrong?
Yeah. And like, I was telling Whitney is like, it's crazy because when everything goes right, people are like, you're so strong. Your body did this. Your body knew what to do. So it's hard not to, when things go wrong, to not blame yourself.
Same. Yeah, it's the same.
Yeah. You're like, well, why is it when everything goes right, I get praised for it? Yeah. But when everything goes wrong, it's now not my fault.
Yeah.
So there is kind of like this the disconnect in between those two.
That's so good.
That is like, we're almost like taught to think that way, neither is right or wrong. I think they're both true in some aspect, but it's not just black and white like that.
That's so good.
Well, and I wanted to ask too, kind of going, you mentioned this a moment ago, Annie, so like now that because your lifestyle has been slowly adjusting as like these milestones are maybe being hit later or in a more unique way, but kind of walk through, I guess, for maybe the parents who are listening, what are some things you talked about, like how you responded emotionally, but just, I wrote down the word physically, but what I really mean by that is like practically speaking in your day-to-day life. So like you're saying, because like Joe, I don't remember how old she was when she started walking, but I remember I put her on the floor one day and she just walked away from me. And I was like, oh, she can walk now. And like from then, immediately our life shifted to like, well, now she can walk. I've got to put gates up and do all this stuff. Where when she was crawling, it wasn't an issue. So for you on your end,
I was putting gates up, hoping I needed them.
Yeah.
Okay. When those things are happening, though, like how do you navigate? Okay, my baby is 2 and maybe still isn't holding a sip. Like those kinds of little nuanced things. Was there anything that you did, or looking back on it now, you're like, ooh, this would have been a lot more helpful if I would have done it a little differently? Like, trying to think of an example with us. There were times where I probably asked Joe to do stuff too soon and then would get frustrated when she couldn't figure it out instead of being more great. Do you feel like you had moments like that?
Yeah, for sure.
Where you were like, the doctors say you're old enough, you should be able to do this. Like, did you struggle with any of that?
Yes. And then I also pretended, not really pretended, but like I hid it. Like I didn't let other people see it, or I like would help her.
Yeah.
Or, I don't know. Does that make sense? Like, it's almost like if I spoke it out loud to y'all or to some other parents or to a grandparent or something, it was real. And so I would just hide it. Like I knew, but I wouldn't like make it known.
Even like what you said about the 4-page document we have to fill out each time. I know that there's been times that I'm like, I want her to hit this milestone, so I'm going to check yes, and you don't know why you're doing it, but you're like, I don't want anybody to think that she's not normal. So I'll just check yes for this,
We lie on our kids' exams sometimes because we don't want to admit maybe where they're at.
Yeah.
Did you do that?
Oh, yeah. it wasn't like really lying. It was just
Yeah.
like, well, I'm pretty sure she's
pretty close.
doing
She's
that.
done that
She's
once.
done it
Yeah.
one time, and it says you have to do it every time.
Yeah,
but
yeah.
I think she's got that down.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I went when I filled out the 3-year-old one. When I filled out the 2-year-old one, I was in that stage. When I went to the 3 one, I was like, no,
Yeah.
no.
You will pay attention.
You will
Yeah.
pay attention to this questionnaire.
Yeah.
So it was funny.
Yeah, and I say that, like I said, Joe, we don't have any indicators of anything in Joe's life right now, but I know as a parent, I didn't realize how impatient I was.
Yeah.
And there are times with Joe where, like, if I saw one kid on TikTok do this at 2 years old, and Joe's not, like, I'm almost getting.
I think potty training is a great
Yeah.
example of that. Like
Comparison.
everybody's like, she's 2, she should be potty trained, or even before that, you have some of these parents that are like, well, mine was potty trained at 18 months,
And I asked you today when we got here, how's she doing?
Yeah, no,
Yeah.
which is like we're going through the process,
Yeah.
so like it's a normal question. But I think the pressure that's put upon
Yeah.
like age related to this, developmental milestone is like that's a pressure that people will put on you, and you
Yeah.
have to be like, she's gonna do it when she's gonna do it,
Yeah.
Well, you feel a pressure to stretch the truth or to exaggerate because you don't want to. You don't want to seem like something's wrong with your kid. You don't want to seem like you're doing something wrong as a parent. And
You
so
want
when
to keep up with
when
everybody
they're like,
else.
"How's potty training going?" You're like, "Oh, it's going great." In reality, she's used the potty like twice.
Yeah.
And most of the time, we just yell.
Yeah.
And, get mad at one another until she cries.
stressed the
I'm
whole time.
pissed, and then we walk away.
Yeah.
And so
And you don't know.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You don't know. And sometimes it's hard to talk about something when you don't know the answer.
Yeah.
And you don't know how to talk about it. You
Yeah.
don't know how you really feel about it yet. And you just,
Yeah.
I don't know how I feel, so I'm just going to
But I
not
like
talk
where
to you about it.
I like where you said about feeling almost this burden to try and like hide it or like assist her through it, because I think a lot of parents, especially in that situation, have and do the same things because we feel this like natural, like it's a natural response to want to guard, not just physically but emotionally and like mentally and spiritually, like we want to guard our kids.
Yeah.
And so I could people can make jokes about me all day long. If someone cracked a joke about Joe, I wouldn't find it funny at all.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And so like that's that innate, like we're not going to go there. And I think when it comes to parenting, it's not a joke, but when there's the possibility of like, hey, something might be developmentally delayed with your child, it's the same as if you might as well have come up and just told me you think she's dumb. Like I'm
Right.
I'm gonna be pissed off that you said that.
Yeah.
In reality, like if it's coming from a medical professional and there's actual signs in front of you, it's that response can be the same. Like denial, nope, that's not true. You're wrong. I'll show you, blah blah blah. And then after a while, you kind of sit back, and then I would imagine, and it goes to my next question. Once you realize like the denial can only take you so far, do you feel like you struggled with any post denial, I guess, guilt of like, I spent the last however many months trying to pretend it didn't exist rather than addressing it, and now I'm behind the curve on addressing it. Did you feel like you dealt with any of that at all?
Yeah, a little bit, but the doctor kept telling me when he wouldn't send us for referrals, he kept saying, there's no, like, we started doing, like I said, PT, physical therapy. We started doing OT. Gradually, we added in speech therapy. Then we added in feeding therapy. And by the time we got to that point of actually going for it, all along the way, he just kept telling me, you're not going to be doing anything much different than you are doing now, especially at this age. Like that was his, and I look back and say, and I know even if we had gotten the diagnosis earlier, there's really only one thing we could have done differently, and that was add in ABA therapy. There's one therapy we could have done different. So I don't really have any regret. We were doing the things
The
that we
best you knew
probably
to
would
do.
have done
Yeah,
anyway.
Yeah.
So I don't think I'm really.
Well, and I ask that because I
Struggle
worry
with
that
that.
there's parents that deal with that of like, well, if I would have known sooner. And sometimes you just don't know sooner.
Yeah.
And I think I think sometimes that's good though, because it gives you an ability to, I don't want to say like necessarily just grow as a parent, but like sometimes I think God doesn't give us the answer right away, so that we'll take time trying to like study and learn our child, because I think
sure.
it can be really easy. We were blessed on the other end, but when someone says your child's totally fine, you almost don't even pay attention to the milestones.
Yeah.
Like I wasn't ready for Joe to start walking because
Yeah.
no one told me there was a reason she shouldn't.
Yeah.
So I wasn't like, okay, she's at this age, she should start doing this now. She just like it just happened.
Yeah.
And so I think for parents on both ends, I think God sometimes allows us to parent in the dark a little bit because it forces us to watch our kids closer to watch what they're doing.
Yeah.
Yeah. I was looking at it from a perspective of she's going to catch up. Like, we're going to do speech therapy and she's going to go to kindergarten and she'll be just like all the other kids and she'll be talking and she'll have all the, because how many words do they have? You know, all that stuff. And I think once we actually got the diagnosis, I had finally settled into, we're not doing, like, it was a long gradual thing, but I don't look now for her to catch up. Like, that's not the goal in doing that. The goal is more, especially with speech therapy, it's like meeting her where she is and helping her to communicate what she needs to communicate without it being a comparison to somebody else. So that was where my mindset shifted from wanting her to catch up to where she's supposed to be to let's just help her however much we can.
Yeah. Yeah.
Well, I think that's really good because a lot of us feel that pressure of like if our kid is behind, even if it's not like a massive developmental thing, but it's just a slight there's other kids in our church that aren't potty trained, but like if Joe was the only 2-year-old not potty trained, I would feel a little like, what am I doing? What's going on here? So no, I think that's good. What I was gonna kind of lead into was you referenced it just slightly, but as this is setting in emotionally, as this is setting in physically to all of your boundaries in your spiritual life, I know for me when my life gets super chaotic. And it's wrong, I know, but one of the first things I'll let go of is a spiritual practice because I'm too stressed to pray. And I know that seems dumb to say, but it's the reality of where we are. There's too much in my mind.
Yeah.
I turn on the worship music and I'm not even listening to it because I'm just thinking through whatever. As you're going through all the crazy things that you shared in your previous episode and everything else, but when it comes to specifically with Blakely, how did going through that affect you spiritually? What was it like when Blakely was born? And you're like, all right, I've got this baby. God's blessed me with this baby. You know, I'm sure you were excited. And then as that unfolded, how did your relationship with God shift over those years?
Related to Blakely?
Yeah.
I was mad.
Yeah.
Very mad at him. I doubted him. I didn't believe that he was good. Like, how could a good God make a child that's not perfect? You know, you think about just this perfect little baby that comes into the world and, you know, you just see him as this perfect little angel. And I was just mad. I just didn't believe that he would just make a human like that. Like, why God? Why did, and I questioned it. I think anger was probably my strongest emotion for a long time, even more than sadness, just being mad at him. I did struggle with my faith as far as, you know, I never stopped believing in God. But I just doubted like my purpose and doubted, you know, just everything that had to do with like what I'm here on this earth for. Like, oh, you put me on this earth to just be miserable forever. And, you know, I just had that mindset for the longest time. But I think in parenting, my community, we talked about this a little bit last time with knowing that I could reach out for support. Was a really big thing as far as like getting me into a better place mentally and spiritually. And I think with parenting, it's even more extreme. Having a support system, and people praying for me, or people like being brought into my life without me seeking it, has been like the way that God has brought me back to him. Does that make sense? Like we talked about how God met me in my bed. Like I was like, he like spoke to me when I was alone. But I think through parenting, it's been through other people. Like he's actually like dropped people into my life that I needed in my life. Like one of my very best friends, who's the occupational therapist, is I told her this not too long ago. I said the first time I ever met her, I said, we were talking about what we did or whatever. She told me she was an occupational therapist, and I said, and she was talking about she works with kids with disabilities, and I was telling her about Blakely's struggles. I was like, she has this, she does this, she does this. She's not autistic, but she does this, she does this. She's not autistic, and I look back now and I see the look on her face, like she had so much grace. She knew, like without even having met Blakely, like she knew. But she just let me say whatever I needed to say. Yeah. And then over the course of these past couple of years, she's been one of my greatest support systems with, just being able to bounce things off of and talk things through. But anyway,
so let me ask you then, talking on that relationship with the Lord.
Yeah.
A lot of anger, a lot of frustration, maybe disappointment, like you shared, you never doubted his existence, but his goodness came into question. I know that was our case, and I think for a lot of our listeners, that's where they find themselves. And I think the church is really strong on trying to re-encourage us that God is real and that God sees us.
Yeah.
And I always felt like God was real and God saw me. He just didn't really care what I was going through.
Yeah.
And to communicate that third point is really difficult. And for a lot of people, when they're in that season, the couple we interviewed the other night shared the same thing. When you're in that season, you almost aren't even ready to hear that.
Yeah.
Like, it's almost obnoxious. Like, if someone came up and was like, he does see you and he does care.
Yeah.
Like, that sounds like a lie to me.
It goes right over.
Yeah. And so there's probably some people who are listening to this, who are in that season and they've already clicked off and they're like, okay, God's good, whatever. But how did that, you talked about the relationships with the people around you, but how did that relationship reconcile, or has it, with you and the Lord, where it shifted from like, I'm not just angry with you all the time? Like, has your relationship with the Lord grown back to a more healthy place? And if so, how do you feel like that happened?
Gradually, continuing to pursue him, which
sometimes you just have to go through the motions
Yeah,
until
yeah.
your emotions catch up.
Yeah.
seriously, just pretending.
Yeah.
Fake it till you make it.
Yeah.
No, there's actually a couple of pretty significant moments that I can remember. So when we were going through the process to get the diagnosis, I got myself. I was, I felt like I had accepted, we're going to go in, we're going to get an autism diagnosis, we're going to get a plan in place, we're going to know what we're going to do. Well, the first doctor we went to, this was before she was 5. They were really, really good, very thorough. And we walked away from there with the doctor saying, she's not autistic, but we think she has an intellectual disability. But we can't officially diagnose that until she's 5. You have to come back after 5 and do another round of testing. And it's like I had worked myself up and I was ready to hear the A word. And then I hear something different. And I'm like, I don't even know what this is. Intellectual disability. I don't even know what those words mean. I was completely blindsided. And it's like I just spiraled out of control. And I started Googling, I started trying to find out, and that's when I think, anger at God kind of came to its heightened place. And when looking up at, Googling and trying to figure out and what that really meant, and one of the things they told me was Blakely would likely never progress past the age of 9 to 12 years old. So her potential mental capacity would be that of a 9 to 12-year-old. Like she'll never, she'll basically never have the mindset of an adult. And obviously nobody has a crystal ball. You never know that for sure. But that was like that's what they gave me. And I really struggled with that because I I became a Christian, or I accepted Jesus, and I understood what it meant to be saved when I was 12. And so in my mind, I correlated that with, she's never going to get there. She's never going to be able to know and love Jesus. And so I had this, wrestling in my brain of, yes, God, Jesus says, little children come to me. But then there's also and Eric, you probably know the right words to say, the age of accountability and knowing but not believing, and then having them, all the things. I just couldn't wrap my head around, how's Blakely going to be in it? Like, how is she going to be able to know Jesus? If she doesn't have the capacity, or is she going to know but not be able to accept or believe? Like, all these things just go around in my head. And I had been struggling with that for a couple of weeks, and just wrestling with it. And there was one night I was up late, and we always give Tyler a really hard time about not responding to text messages. And I had been journaling in my phone, and I had not shared with him and Ryan anything that had been going on with that yet. I'd kept it to myself, and I literally just copied and pasted my journal about what I had been writing about how I was, I just had this fear that Blakely was never going to be able to know Jesus. Like, that was the thing that was just going around. And Tyler immediately writes me back, and he says, go read 2 Samuel 9. That's all he said. And it's the story of Mephibosheth. And I know I'm saying it wrong, but y'all know the story. It was Saul's grandson. And he, when Saul and Jonathan were killed, the nurse picked him up and dropped him, and he became disabled on the way up. Because his dad died, he became disabled, which that's not why Blakely is disabled, but it was just it resonated with me. And he was in hiding, and and anyway, David sought him out. David went looking for him, and David invited him to sit at his table. And it's like the Holy Spirit, I read over this whole chapter, and it's like the Holy Spirit just said to me, Blakely's going to sit at my table. And that's what I felt in that moment. I was like, I don't know how. I don't understand. I don't know what she'll ever understand, but it's like God just made it very clear to me that she was going to have a seat at his table. And another thing he said, which was weird, is like, he also said she's going to have many crowns. And so that was probably the pivotal moment when I guess kind of released it back to God, and like, I know that you're good, God. And when he started hammering it into my head, because literally 4 days later, and this, I'm gonna get a little woo-woo on you. I could probably go back and look at the dates, but I know it was that next weekend. We were eating breakfast at Cracker Barrel, and this lady, have I told y'all this story? Okay. This lady came up to me, and I've had all these struggles with Blakely, as far as like, she's not a good communicator. She doesn't speak well. I say speak well. She doesn't, she's got speech delay. This lady comes up to me. I'm sitting right here. She comes right here. And I've heard of this happening. This has never happened to me. But she's like right here. And I'm like, and she's like, hey. And she said, do you believe in God? And I said, yeah. And she's like,
why are you so close to me?
Yeah, what do you want?
She said, and I'm still like, get away from me.
Yeah.
She said, do you believe in Jesus? And I was like, yeah. And then she goes a little bit quiet. She's like, do you believe you can get a word from God? And it caught my attention. I was like, yeah. Mm-hmm. And she said, your daughter, that's your daughter, right? I was like, yeah. Mm-hmm. Your daughter has a mighty voice. Your daughter has, she has power in her voice. Mm-hmm. She said, God wants you to know that she's going to be okay. Mm-hmm. And she said a couple other things, but just her saying she has power in her voice is just sent me over the edge. She did, and and she, like I said, she said a couple more things, and I know her name was April, and then I turned, then she's like, she didn't poof out of thin air.
She went on her way.
But she went
Just
on her way.
out, yeah.
But after she said what she had to say, it was kind of awkward. Like, she was like, I don't know what to do with my hands.
We're not friends. Yeah, well, now what?
And then she like poofed and went away. Not really, but and then we had not even ordered our food yet, and we ordered 8, and then the waitress was like, "Oh, I would bring you a bill, but it's already been paid for." So she had actually already paid. She paid for our food too.
Wow.
Anyway, it was just
reaffirming. Yeah.
like just for him to say there's power in her voice.
Yeah.
I don't know. It was just
Well, and I think
just
it's
amazing that
I love that you share that challenge, because I think a lot of that's obviously a fear for believers is, who do I know, and are they gonna get in? Are they going to heaven with me?
yeah.
And especially with your kids, like I love y'all, but like when it comes to my friends and stuff, but like I'm worried about my wife and my kid. Like I want. It sounds horrible. Like I want them first. Like if I only get to minister to one person, it's gonna be to my daughter, and everyone else is just gonna have to figure it out with their own selves. And so like that, I could sense that fear. But I think one of the things, and I'm no theologian, but I've never read anywhere in the scriptures where I've never even discovered a spot where kids don't go to heaven.
Yeah.
And and maybe this is just, stick your head in the sand or whatever, but I believe that I serve a God that loves people, and particularly loves children. Anytime I see Jesus speak or interact with children, it's only ever through grace and through, I personally feel it's through a position of, I guess you could call it anointing. I don't know what the spiritual word is, but like when Jesus is talking to adults, he's usually pretty corrective and pretty instructive. And whenever he's talking, whenever he's talking to children, he's almost like using them as like, this one's got to figure it out.
Yeah.
And y'all need to be like her or like him. And then when he gets in a room full of adults, he's like, you need to do this better and you need to do this better. And then when he gets around kids, he's like, you're killing it.
Yeah.
You're doing amazing.
Yeah.
And so I said this on the episode we recorded the other night. I believe that all children, all babies, and I believe they go to heaven. I just do, and I don't have anywhere in scripture that tells me that.
Yeah.
But I don't have anywhere in scripture that tells me the opposite.
don't, yeah.
And when I read through the character in the love and the grace that I see Jesus present, I don't have any leg to stand on that would indicate otherwise.
Yeah.
And so we talk about this like age of accountability or like special needs or whatever. I just believe that when children, whether they are childlike in their mental state or they're childlike in their age when they pass, like babies who pass away, children who pass away unexpectedly, those kinds of things. I don't believe that they stand before the throne and God's all right, now you were on the earth for 30 years, so let's go through like all this stuff. I believe that he interacts with us just like we would interact with someone like that. I wouldn't take a 5-year-old and rip apart his life.
Right.
You know what I'm saying? And so I think there's a grace there. And it's just it's not even just that it's easier to believe. I think it's the right I think it's the right thing to do. We see Jesus in Matthew talk about like these are the greatest in the kingdom. Are these are to be like a child?
The least of these.
And so I think that's
also,
super cool.
Like, I mean, I think as parents, you get a very small glimpse of God's love, for us. And for me anyways, I'll just speak for myself. I would do anything to advocate for Joe.
Yeah.
And I would make almost any excuse in order to make sure that she is with me, that we do get to spend. Like, I think we almost have a misconception sometimes that God's looking for any reason for us not to be with him.
Yeah.
And I think it's the opposite.
You're right.
And I think like we could say the same thing for kids of like, if there's even a hint of a reason that maybe they just didn't understand, like, I think he's like, absolutely, I'm going to take that and run with it, because I'd rather you be here than not be here over something
so good
like that.
Now, let me ask you, kind of moving back into the practical side of life now. What are some, like, you said she's about to be 6. You found out around the time she was 5. So what are some just practical things that you've had to change or that maybe you could share with a parent that's listening that you adjusted in your daily routine to help. So you talked about like, there were some milestone like delays or like developmental delays. So like, what did you do to pivot that you could give a mom some advice on? Like, is it helpful to get up a little earlier to beat them to it, or like, lay out their outfits the night before, or let her pick out her outfit? Like, what are some things that you've learned over parenting Blakely that like, you're like, what could I do differently to maybe help?
You're going to love this one, Eric.
What's that?
I quit my job.
Yes. Yes.
No, I didn't even think about that till just now. But no, I've learned, man, the comparison game. I can't look at other people's lives and think that ours is going to look like that. Like, we just have to do what works for us, as far as like financially, keeping the house cleanish, sleeping. We've just had to figure out survival mode, but for what works. I mean, Blakely, well, we may get into this in a little bit, but she has a very, very high connection need. She needs me. And it is an annoying thing, quite honestly. It's very overstimulating for me, because my connection needs are the opposite.
Yeah. I feel that.
Yeah, y'all get it. Yeah. Same.
But I know that she needs that connection. And it's not something like it's not a punishment for her to be disconnected from me. It's a safety thing for her. And that's what I didn't understand for the longest time, probably very, very recently. And a lot of people don't understand is, we'll just make her stay in her room, or just get her used to being away from you, like set a timer and make her do the. I don't know if that's the right thing.
That it'll ever connect that way for her, or like she'll just learn to be away from you.
Stress
Trauma,
for her. Is it causing her to have more dysregulation? So I don't know. I'm still working through that. So I don't know exactly what the solution is, but there's, as far as like, just, so I follow another podcast, Raising Autistic Disciples.
Yeah, I see you share some of their stuff.
They have a lot of really good. So it's really funny because, it's not really funny. There's a lot of resources in the autism world. And then there's a lot of resources for like fatherless children. There's not a lot of resources from a biblical or Christian perspective for any of those. And so I still haven't found anything that brings them all together. So I'd love to have a podcast for fatherless children who are autistic with a solo parent. So somebody come up with that.
Yeah.
It might be you.
I was going to say, I think that's what you're doing right now.
But no, I love the perspective that Raising Autistic Disciples has, because they're in the trenches with, doing the things. But she always comes at it from a biblical perspective and just helps me see things from a different point of view. But I think the most practical thing that I can do, there's all these things that I can do. I have to put Jesus first. I have to have my quiet time has to come first. It has to come before my shower, my physical needs. It has to come before my dishes are done. Like, that has to be a top priority, or I won't make it through the day. And there's, you see those memes, like it's either my hair or my house or my kid that's clean. It's either my spiritual walk or my spiritual life has to be tended to, and I'll go dirty and not wear it and not have a shower. I talk about the shower thing a lot.
It's a big thing for you.
It is a big thing for me.
But
I think that is the thing that has helped me survive in the last year or so, is prioritizing.
That's what I was going to say too, is I'm sure parenting in general, but especially maybe with these unique challenges, it requires a higher level of discipline. Like you've got to be more disciplined with your time. Like you shared with, like, you've got to get your spiritual stuff done first. But like knowing that it might take you a few minutes longer to get ready. You don't get to just sleep in and then complain about being late either. Like, you know what I mean? Like, you've got to know that ahead of time. I think for some of the parents who find themselves in that situation, it's like when you're ready to stop pretending and embrace where you are, move the alarm up 15 minutes and make your day easier. Like, and that's okay.
Yeah.
We've had to adjust, and Joe's doesn't have some of these challenges. She has her own unique challenges, but we've had to learn that through our own discipline. Of I used to say I would read my Bible during her nap. And then by the time nap time came around, I was ready to take a nap. You know, like I was exhausted. And so we've had to kind of adjust those things too. I wanted to ask you just a few more questions here because I don't want to go on forever.
I do think it is like, I think can be cheesy, but just very practical for people who do believe in God, that there is so much strength that comes into just feeding your soul in the morning. Like there's a reason that people say that, and it's cliche and everything.
It's true.
But if you just take that time, whatever it looks like for that day, and you get that, like, it sets your mind on the right path, and you just have an energy that I don't think you gain any other way. So I do think that is a very practical.
Beyond understanding, like you said, it's the piece that passes understanding. You can't understand it until you experience it. And
so let me ask you, and we'll kind of we've already touched on a lot of this, so some of this might just be quick. But what are some unique challenges, quote unquote challenges, that you feel like you face now that would be unique to your parenting situation, and how do you address those?
I think maybe not the biggest thing, but the first thing that came to my mind was Blakely looks normal. She doesn't look like she has a disability, and she can mask and she can put on a good face. I mean, if you're around her more than, a couple minutes, you probably figure it out. But, just people in the grocery store, she just looks like a little girl. And I'm sure we probably see people all the time that you don't know. She does have, she has a lot of the kids on the spectrum have sensory issues. Hers are not touch, so she's kind of different in that way. And that a lot of kids don't like the way things feel, or don't like certain textures, or eat certain textures. Blakely's, and a lot of kids do have audible, but she has audible sensory issues, loud noises, and then also temperatures. So like if things are really hot, like she will not eat anything hot foods. It either has to be room temperature or below. Temperatures like out in the world kind of will bother her sometimes. It's not that she gets upset, she just gets uncomfortable. Loud noises make her scared. Like even like normal loud noises, like ice falling out of the ice maker. It's like, what's that? Like, it's a scare for her. It's not, she doesn't get used to the noises like some children would.
What are some unique, I put down unique wins that y'all get to experience in this? Like things are different than what you were expecting, but what's something positive that's come out of it that you've seen over the last few years that you're like, oh yeah, this is a unique thing. Like you touched on her, I forget the word you used, but like where she needs to be around you a lot.
High connection.
High connection. I'm sure there are a lot of times that's annoying, but in another sense, there's another mom who says like, oh, I wish. Like my kid wants nothing to do with me. So what are some unique wins that you feel like you have with this diagnosis?
We never meet a stranger. We have no stranger danger, which that's scary for a mom. But, the number of conversations it's led to has been amazing. Like we'll be on walks, and like we went on a walk one time before church, and Blakely's like, church, Jesus, and it's like, it led me to be able to talk about Jesus to a person randomly that I never would have spoken to. And it's like,
I wonder if that's the crowns.
I know
you're talking about.
That's exactly what I'm thinking.
Not afraid to share the gospel.
And
well, and her crowns, although maybe she's not able to do it herself, but she's starting it for you.
Mm-hmm.
So,
Exactly.
you know,
Like we're like a little tag team.
yeah, yeah,
But she breaks the ice, and everybody thinks she's cute, and they think her first question is, "What's your name?"
yeah,
Yeah.
And she'll ask you about 10 more times, "What's your name?"
Yeah.
But yeah, it's always yeah, we don't meet strangers. We don't not talk to anybody. Also, I think on this side of things, like the milestones are so big. Like there's so much more worth celebrating.
Yeah.
And not that they're not always worth celebrating, but you know, like the first time she pooped in the potty.
yeah,
How huge that was.
Yeah.
Like that was such a big deal. It was like, I'm crying. And
Yeah,
then she's
yeah.
like, why are you crying?
yeah, yeah,
And then
Yeah.
it's like all this big deal. And while it is burdensome for my, you know, emotional dysregulation, we are really, really close. And I know we always will be.
yeah,
You know,
Yeah.
I feel like we're always going to be
yeah.
very tight knit. Like
Yeah.
I don't know. Like I just
Yeah.
feel like
That will
that's such a
never-
blessing.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
I know there's going to be a point that Joe hates me.
Yeah.
And you might not ever have to.
Yeah. Well, I think we all go through phases in our younger years or our teenage
Yeah.
years where our parents become like the most obnoxious people in
Yeah.
the
The
world.
The enemy.
And there might be some of that with Blakely too, but probably not as severe.
Yeah. And one thing that I want, maybe you could talk about a little bit, is there's one thing that I think he's mentioned to you, but I've also mentioned it. There's a girl that I know who has an autistic daughter as well. And I mentioned it, that Eric had said this at one point of there's possibly a level of innocence that she will never lose.
Yeah.
That you will always be able to keep. And when I just remember, I just like briefly was like, oh, Eric said this one time about this, you know, and she started crying. You know, she's the girl that does my lashes. And she's like, she just started crying doing my lashes. And she was just like, it's so true. She goes, that and you learn so much through their innocence.
Yeah.
And through their, like, her daughter doesn't give two flips about what other people think about her. And she
Yeah.
goes, I'm just trying to be more like her
I know.
all the time. But I don't know if you want to talk about that at all.
Well, yeah, no, I mean, you basically said it all. Yeah,
Yeah.
it was at the trampoline park when we did the church event,
Oh,
and
yeah.
you and me were working the front door, and they were all, and it was actually you, me, and I think Julia,
Okay.
and that was the first time you had shared with me Blakely's diagnosis, and I
Yeah.
kind of didn't really know what to do or what to say because like I'm new to parenting too, so like
Yeah.
I don't really know what to say, and I don't like. I always hate it when people try to give advice that was like, oh, well, my kid's like this, because like you didn't ask about
Yeah.
Joe, you were just
Yeah.
telling me about your kid, so I'm like not really sure what to say. And
That was
so,
real fresh too.
yeah,
It was
and
like,
I could tell it was like heavy on your heart, and so I sat there for a second, and I was thinking to myself like, don't say anything stupid, don't say you understand because you don't understand, you know, like, and I was just sitting there thinking, and I was like, I honestly don't know what to say. So when she finishes,
Sorry.
I'm like, when she finishes the sentence, it's gonna be super awkward because like I really don't know what to say right now. And I immediately I felt like the Holy Spirit told me like, because you said, you know, there's a chance that mentally she won't get past this
Yeah.
certain age, and immediately I thought how happy I was at that age,
oh yeah.
and I was like, man, honestly,
If you could live there
part
forever.
of me would like. Yeah, like if I could stay 11 years old forever, like
Yeah.
at 11, I didn't know I understood the concept of lying, but I wasn't a liar.
Yeah.
I had never seen drugs. I had never done
Yeah.
alcohol. I had never
Just the
viewed
joy
pornography. Yeah, like
from just
I
normal
loved my
things.
parents. You know, like I
Yeah.
loved being around my parents, and I remember thinking how innocent I was at 11.
Yeah.
And I just felt like that's what the Holy Spirit told me to say to you, and we've said it to other parents that we've met now, where it's like there are times where you go, man, I would love to see and pray that you do mentally develop, you know, to the ages that you grow up to be. That's the goal. But also, like, as you know, we all know, with every year of life, it almost feels like a year of like a little bit more weights added on your back of like things you're exposed to, things you've seen, things you've heard, conversations you've been in that make you feel icky afterwards. And you're like, I didn't even know this stuff was in the world when I
Yeah.
was 11 years old. I just wanted to be with my parents and my friends. And so for you, I think if it doesn't happen that way, and maybe mentally it does stop at a certain point, but it's fair to be disappointed. But I think
Yeah.
it's also fair to celebrate like
both can exist.
Yeah, we are huge fans of Love on the Spectrum on Netflix.
Oh, yeah.
We love that show, and every time I watch them, that's always what I tell Amanda is I'm like they're too. I tell Amanda all the time like they're too good for this world.
Yeah.
because they're grown. They're in their 20s, 30s, and 40s, and mentally they're still a little behind the curve. But it's like they're so unconditionally happy,
Yeah.
unconditionally supportive.
Yeah.
They walk into places that I would walk in. I wouldn't dare walk in without my gun on my hip because
Yeah.
I'm judgmental and I'm prejudiced and I've made up my mind about people before I've met them. And they walk in with this innocence of just wanting to shake hands and love on people.
Yeah.
And so I think there's a benefit to that too.
Well, Blakely, I use the word annoying. I mean, I love this child with all my heart,
Yeah.
and I can say that she's annoying,
Yeah.
but nobody else.
Yeah,
Right.
I
needs to
agree with that.
Yeah,
You know what
I
I'm
I get
saying?
it. I get it.
Every parent will understand that.
Yes.
And I know the people that don't love her the way other people do, for lack of a better way. Like you just know. I mean, she's a lot. She's a lot to take in, and she can be overwhelming. And so there's people that can handle it, and there's people that don't handle it as well. And I see it on their faces, and she doesn't. And it hurts me, but she doesn't have to be hurt by it. I don't know if maybe she will understand it one day, but there's people that she runs up to and she wants to give them a hug, and they're just like, and even the people that normally want to give her a hug, they probably don't want to give her 30 hugs.
Yeah,
Give her 30 hugs, but
Yeah.
but yeah, it's like she right now does not understand
Yeah.
what that is for somebody to be like,
Yeah. That there's like any bad qualities in people.
yeah,
She doesn't.
like she just sees all the good.
Yeah.
Yeah. Let me ask you about this then. You touched on her like emotional need to be around you.
Yeah.
You wrote this down, but I wanted to ask you, what do you? And it'll tie into the question I'm going to ask. When I ask, what are you most anxious about or excited about for the future? You wrote down, there is a reality in which she might live with you for a long time, if not for her adult life.
Yeah.
When you think about what makes you anxious or excited for the future, kind of talk about that a little bit, from how you came to grips with that, if you're still coming to grips with that, and what about that, how that makes you feel.
Ah, can you tell? So, probably the thing that takes up the most space in my mind is what's going to happen to her when I die. Who's going to take care of her? And all the people all the people say, you don't have to worry about that right now. Well, I'm going to have to worry about it at some point. I was a little bit older when she was born. So the reality is it's going to happen sooner rather than later. As far as, obviously I know I don't have to have a plan in place tomorrow.
But you're a parent. You worry.
But it's something I will more than likely, I will have to prepare for when I die. Who's going to take care of her? And a lot of, as parents, we think the natural progression of things is when your child gets to be 18 and they go to college and then they get married and they go off on their own and then they potentially take care of you. The reality is that will probably never happen. And so I have there is when your spouse dies, when the other parent of your child dies, like one of the very first things that I think you do, or that I did, that was very important to me, was get my will put in place. So if I die right now, I know who's taking care of her. When I did that, I didn't know that she was, special needs. And so I've had to have that conversation with those people, which was really hard, really, really difficult, because I was scared they were going to then say no. They didn't, but so as of right now, I've not changed my will or anything, but I will eventually have to change my will. So, I have until she's 18.
But I think it's the heart of a parent that you go like, I am worried about what my kid's future is going to look like, because I know if things go the way they should, it definitely shouldn't be the other way around. Blakely should have to bury you, not you
Right.
bury her. And we've seen the other side, and it sucks.
Yeah.
And so it sucks losing your parents young, but it's always better than parents losing their kids.
Yeah.
And so as a parent, the moment your kid hits the earth, you immediately go, there's going to be a day that they're here without me.
Yeah.
I need to spend the rest of my life making sure they're ready to go.
Yeah.
And I want to ask you, you talked about having that conversation with that other family. And it kind of brings me to my second to last question for you. When it comes to viewing, now that you've been through this thing that you've been through, your view on people with special needs, but also what can other people do in that situation? Because prior to meeting you in Blakely, we had met kids in ministry that had special needs, but we had never been as close with a family who had a child with autism. And so for us, it was like we you see them at church or like once a month at a Bible study or something, but week in and week out, like having an actual relationship. Part of this is like, I think sometimes people just don't know what to do.
Yeah.
So what would you say to someone who's watching this, who's like, I have a nephew, I have a niece, I have a friend who has a kid in this situation. What do I need to do when I'm with them, when I'm not with, like, what do I need? I don't know what to do. What can I do?
Get to know them. Just get to know them. Just get to know us.
Yeah.
Don't shy away. Ask questions. I'm an open book. I'll tell you. Just being interested, because sometimes people are scared to ask because they know that it's like you see the person in the wheelchair, you like turn and look away. You don't want to draw attention to them, but I think knowing that Blakely is different, I think asking me like, oh, what are her struggles? What is something she does that she's really passionate about? Like she is, she loves the matching game with the cards.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
She will kick your butt in the matching game.
Yeah.
And her teachers at school tell me that she beats all the teachers. Like she is amazing
Wow.
at the matching game. She loves her babies. You want to get on her good side? Have a baby.
Yeah.
Not have a baby, but like
I was like,
baby
have
doll.
a baby doll.
Yeah,
I'm working on it.
don't let her see the
Yeah.
Yeah.
but like just show interest in who she is as a person.
Yeah.
I think that's obviously come babysit anytime you want to.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But you're right. I think a
Babysitting's
lot of
always
people
open.
don't know what to do, and I think there's the fear of like, I don't want to upset someone by asking.
Yeah.
But I think it's equally awkward to like,
Ignore it.
it's happening right in
Yeah.
front of us, and we're all just going to pretend like it's not happening. At some
Yeah.
point, break the ice and talk about it.
Yeah.
No, I think that's good. How would you say that it's given you a greater grace, a greater level of patience for not just Blakely but other people?
Yeah.
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 Yeah. Probably something.
Well,
Years ago, I did not have a lot of.
I would say that too, because like part of it, having a kid in general will, I think, increase your patience or test your patience for sure. But like I've grown a greater grace for other parents.
Yeah.
When I see a parent, like before we had Joe, if I saw a kid acting up in public, I was like, you need to take the kid to the car, beat his ass, and then come back inside and we can enjoy our dinner. And now I see a kid screaming and I'm just like,
you're like, I'm sorry, Mom.
I have no idea.
Let me hold the door for you.
Yeah, I'm like, I genuinely have, because like Joe will
Can I get your
literally,
bag? Yeah.
Joe will throw such a large tantrum, and it's because I won't stand up.
Yeah.
And like and so like I see that you add in the dynamic of your situation, but I know for me as a parent, becoming a parent, I've grown a lot of grace. Do you feel like you've done that with other families as well when you see special needs
For sure.
people?
Yeah.
100%. And not just with special needs, I think it's all around.
Yeah.
Like you said, not just parents either. You just grow like I don't know, just a tolerance maybe.
Yeah.
Or just, I don't know.
Yeah, an understanding
Grace,
of like
understanding.
you don't
Yeah.
know what they're going through.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Like you, and like, it's like I said before with Blakely, like she looks so normal. But you just don't know. You just never know.
Yeah.
And like, when somebody, the story, somebody cuts you off in traffic or whatever. And I mean, I'm still going to get mad about that.
Yeah.
But
Yeah.
you just never know what somebody's dealing with.
Right.
So last question I'll ask you then, and then you can, if you have any. But what would you, if you could say something to a young parent, or not even a young parent, maybe a new parent is a better way to word that, who's had a kid, they don't know if their kid's going to have, a developmental, delay or anything like that. We recorded the other night with a young couple in our church who had some issues in their pregnancy, and their doctor said, hey, this might be an issue later. So for maybe parents who are on the fence, they don't know what their kid's going to grow up to be like, or maybe they just got a diagnosis like you did over a year ago. Like, what would you say to that parent who is anxious about their kid's future like you are or were? I know that oftentimes the cliche Christian advice just goes in one ear and out the other because there's a how could you know? But now here we are, you've shared your story. So for people who have made it this far into the episode, we know how you know. What would you say to that parent?
Well, I think you can say it's going to be okay. And that is really what I would want to say. That is going to be okay. But I think you just have to meet them where they are and just be available. Yeah. Just be somebody that's just, I don't know, not try to give them too much advice too soon. Yeah. And that's kind of what my friend did when I said, oh, she's not autistic, but she's, and she just kind of let me talk. Yeah. She just let me. And then over the course of the years, I've told her, there's no way to like rush it. Like I had to go through all of that process on my own, and me telling another parent, well, this is what I did and I did this and you need to do this is not going to help them get through the process any quicker. I think it's just, when you're ready. When you come to me and say this, it's like, oh yeah, we did that too, or we had that happen too, and that sounds about right, or whatever. Like, does that make any sense?
No, no,
I don't know if that's really helpful. But.
No, I think it does, because I think people just need to know. Like, I shared this with the couple we interviewed the other night, but like, time is such an undervalued tool that God allows in our lives or uses in our lives. Of like, there really is no replacement for just the time to process something. Yeah. It took us months to process your parents passing. Yeah. It took us a week or so to process when we found out we were having a son and not another daughter, because we wanted another daughter. Yeah. And like, I remember calling Tyler that afternoon and he was like, bro, you're having a son. Like, Ryan would kill to have a son. And I remember thinking like, that's true, but also I don't want that. Like, I don't need to hear that right now. I needed time. And so I think for a lot of parents, like, sometimes you just need the time to sit in it.
Yeah. I love the advice of meet them where they're at, because I think that goes for meet them where they're at for your kid, meet them where they're at if you're a friend to the parent of the kid, meet them where they're at if they've lost somebody, meet them where, like, that's just, you're not trying to fix anybody. Yeah. You're just, I think the greatest ministry that I've seen in our lives is not people quoting scripture and even holding my hand, like in a church service or, even praying for me sometimes. It was just being a friend. Yeah. Yeah. And if I didn't want to get out of bed, they, sat at the end of the bed with me. If I didn't want to talk, they just watched a TV show with me, and I think that it, like you said, even with your kid, I don't need to push Joe. I need to meet her where she's at. Yeah. And make her the best Joe she's ever going to be, Yeah. So I think that's the most perfect advice you could have given.
Yeah. Thank you. I think being welcomed into into the community with, like this is going to sound so silly. Today is like a dream come true. This is weird. This is going to sound funny, but like coming here, seeing our friends, a little girl that Blakely knows and can play with, and then our other friend coming that y'all are also friends with, that's watching our kid, and then we're going to have the lunch afterwards. Like, it's not like, oh, hi, good to see y'all. We're going to say some stuff on a recording. Like, we're actually, we don't see each other all the time. Right. And a lot of times it's just on Sundays, and not just y'all, but like, it's life. Yeah. We're building relationship and living life together. And that's what you do with your community. And I think part of what has come from having this diagnosis and then Blakely being in a special education pre-K program is meeting the other parents and seeing where they're in all these different stages of, that process that we talked about, and, meeting them where they are. And it's it's just been really eye-opening, and we are very, very blessed that we get to be in the community that we are.
Yeah, well, I would even say, going off of that, then your second piece of advice is to don't exclude yourself.
Yeah.
So, I mean, it's the easiest thing when we're going through something hard to lock ourselves away and want to do it on our own or not want to put in that effort.
Yeah.
But I think everybody who actually puts in that effort to not exclude themselves knows the benefit and the weight off your shoulders when you do that.
Yeah.
It's really hard at first, but the benefit that comes with that later is so much more worth it.
It takes a lot of effort.
Yes.
Like, the whole get out the house. Once you get out, you can breathe a little bit, but just getting there.
Yeah.
It's the same thing.
I'm gonna end with this, and it's okay to cry when I ask you this.
I have one more point too before you end.
Okay,
you want me to
go.
go?
Yeah, you do yours. Yeah.
Okay, let me do this.
Yeah.
So I was going. This is my third point. So I'm going to go back to preaching a little bit.
Okay. Yeah. Go for it.
So just how good God is. We did the genetic counseling and or the genetic testing, and when you hear that word genetic testing, like, what does that mean? Okay, they take a blood sample and they test your genes and see, like, why are your eyes blue? Why are your eyes, all the things, everything in your body comes from a gene, right? Like every single thing that your body processes, it comes from these genes that are on these chromosomes, right? And so Blakely had this genetic testing done. And so you have to have a genetic counseling appointment prior to the testing. And then you do the test. And then you have to have another genetic counseling appointment afterwards. And then you go to see a geneticist. So we've done the first 3. And that was last summer. And it was right around all that time when, like, I was having that struggle, and then the lady at Cracker Barrel and Tyler and all that stuff. After that, like I said, it hit me. Boom, boom, boom. So the day of the second genetic counseling appointment, when I was basically getting the results, my friend that I was just talking about, the OT, she had asked me to do a Bible plan with her, like on the YouVersion app. And I'd done this. I said, yes, whatever. And I was like 2 weeks behind, hadn't done the one I was supposed to do, and I kept forgetting about it. And I did it that morning. And Psalm 139 was the verse for that morning. And I just thought that was so neat. It's like God put it in front of me, this verse about knitting you together in your mother's womb, and here I am getting this genetic counseling results on the day that I read this verse. I've heard this verse my whole life, but he put that in front of me that day. And not only that, I have this other devotional thing that I read at night, and it was the same verse again on the exact same day. And I was floored by the first one. When the second one came up, I was just blown away, like mind completely blown. Like there's no other way except for the sovereignty of God that this happened on this exact day. And all I could think about is how kind that is. Like I always think about the Corey Asbury song, Kind. Mm-hmm. Thank you to the Broom podcast for introducing me to the Pioneer album. But I think about the word kind, and that's not a word we typically think of to describe God. Mm-hmm. But I could have gotten that results and been perfectly fine and been praising God and not been any different. But he was so kind to put that verse in front of me twice that he just wanted me to have, it's like he just was hugging me. You know? It's like he gave me this reassurance and this hug that he just wanted me to know that he loved me. And that's, I'm not going to go off on another tangent. You're going to get your ending, I promise.
Yeah, you're good.
I think I have struggled a lot with, God's going to protect me because of Blakely. Like he loves her, So I get the byproduct of her love, like I'm not good enough for him to be nice to and protect and to give this provision to, but he's always going to protect her. So I'll get the scraps or whatever. And it's like he's told me, no, I love you too. It's not, she's important, yes, but so are you. And so,
well, I think it's so easy. You say that it's so easy for us as parents to we just naturally want to give way to that.
Yeah.
Where it's like, if God only has a limited amount, I want it to go to my kid and not to me. But that's because we have a limited amount of energy. And I always tell Amanda, like, go play with Joe. Don't hang out with me. Like, go hang out with her. But God doesn't have that limit like we have.
Yeah.
And you say
It's
that, though.
easy for us to understand, too, why God would love our kids. It's not easy for us to, for him, for me to understand why he loves me.
That's really good. And the last thing I wanted to ask you, Annie, was, and I don't know, you can approach it however you want to. There's no wrong answer here. But one day Blakely will grow up, and if she ever comes across this episode, or maybe there's a young person who's old enough to understand what we're talking about, who's listening to this, who is Blakely as a teenager, as a young adult, they've come across this episode, and they want to know that they're not messed up, that they're not broken, that God didn't make them. We use the terms normal and perfect, and then say and when we talk about these scenarios, but I think anyone would agree that Blakely's perfect the way she is. What would you say to a grown up Blakely, or to a grown up person with that developmental delay, who's listening to this, who's like, I want to fit in, but I'm still not really sure? As a parent, as someone who's been on the earth for a little bit of time, what would you say to them?
What I would say to Blakely is, I just love you so much. I love you. And kiss, because we always say, I love you. She always kisses me. But I would also say, you're exactly the way God intended you to be. Never was a mistake. He doesn't make mistakes with our genes, with our parents, or with anything. It's always by design.
Yeah.
And he loves you even more than I ever could.
Yeah. No, I think that's what I would imagine people in that scenario need to be told sometimes, in a world where it's like, well, I know you have this thing, but you're still good the way you are. Yeah. It's like, that thing is just a part of what you do, or who you are. Like, Joe might not have a developmental delay, but she might have an insecurity. And I would like it. You're always going to have to teach your kid you're perfect the way you are, regardless of what their genes say or anything like that. We all struggle with that. So I just think it's refreshing for young people to hear from an older voice, older than them, that just says, hey, you are.
Well, I think we created this idea of normal, that God never intended for it to be out there. And that's something that we all fight. I fight with the way that I look at myself in the mirror. It's Joe will fight it. Blakely will fight it of, I don't look normal, or I'm not normal. I don't struggle with the same things other people struggle with. And that's just an idea that we've all created in our own head, that I think.
Yeah. Well, and you could name any person in my life, and I could tell you what they'll tell you is not normal about them. Yeah. I mean, any person. And you tell me their name, and I can say, well, I know they're insecure about this, or I know they doubt themselves about that. And so for Blakely, hers just has a medical title to it that the rest of us don't get. So anyway, that's it. That's all I have. Yeah. If y'all are good, we'll close in prayer and then go to Chili's.
Yeah.
Sounds good.
Yeah.
God, thank you for this time. Thank you for this conversation we get to have. God, I pray that, again, anyone who's made it this far, or hears even a clip, I just pray that they know that you made them. God, like your word says, you formed them in their mother's womb, and you made them exactly how you designed them to be. Yes. God, that there's no such thing as an imperfect child, God, but we're all made in your image, and that's perfection. And so I thank you that you're a God that does that. I thank you that you're a God that sees us, not just that sees us, God, but that cares about us, even when we're mad at you and we are like thinking that you don't care about us, or that you don't see us, or that you're not good to us. God, I thank you that you are, and that you're patient with us. As we work through our emotions down here on earth. I pray that you would help us to work through those. I pray you constantly give us a perspective from your throne room of what our lives look like. And us as parents, as we sit here, God, I pray over our kids that they would grow and they would develop into the human that you've called them to be. Maybe not even what we want them to be, God, but what you've created them for the purpose you've put them on the earth for. I pray you help us as parents to just cultivate and grow that, God, that we don't put our own selfish ambition or desires into them of what we want them to be, but that they grow up to be exactly who you've created them to be, no more, no less. And that we don't hinder that, but we only help nurture that. Give us patience, give us grace, give us wisdom, God, as we're navigating parenting for the first time, that we do it in a way that ultimately, if all else fails, when our kids are adults, they can say, you know what, my parents loved me and they loved Jesus. And they might have done a whole bunch of other stuff weird and wrong, but they loved me and they loved Jesus. And I pray that Joe and Blakely can say that confidently. And I just pray over them that you bless them, watch over them, keep them safe, keep them healthy, and continue to let them grow into the beautiful young women you've called them to be. In Jesus' name, amen.